Good evening. I call the meeting to order this evening and welcome everybody here, including whoever is watching on the live streaming. We appreciate that from Gordon Russell for setting it up for us. So I remind the supervisors to speak clearly and look at the camera. We have two public hearings tonight, and we will begin in a moment. So I want to remind folks that, and I think it's self-evident, but as a public hearing, you are speaking to the board, not to each other. So we would ask you to direct the comments to us. There's a 3-minute time limit on that. I know it's in particular, the second public hearing has, I know a lot of folks that wish to speak, so we're going to do our best to accommodate everyone that's here. And I don't know if there are other people out in the atrium or not. So we will do that. And then we have received many comments via email, and staff has pre-recorded them. So we will listen to a portion of those, not all. We have in our guidelines, our bylaws, a 10 o'clock cutoff, which I think is reasonable for all of us involved, including you. So we may or may not get through all the written comments, but they will be part of the record. But we will get through the comments from folks that are here tonight. So, and the other point I would make is that board members may ask a question, but it's not really a debate. So board members will ask for clarification of from facts and that kind of thing. So, and we will not be too stringent on the 3 minutes, but we do have things to do and people who want to hear from everybody. So we'll try not to cut you off in mid-word. Okay, first public hearing is on the recreational component plan. And I don't know, yes, Ms. Teeter is here to present her work. But first, we'll hear from that. The board may ask some questions, and then I'll open the public hearing.
Amen.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Citizen comment. Is there any citizen that wishes to speak on any other issue that is not before the board tonight? Hearing none, we will move on to the first recreational component plan.
Good evening. I'm here to present the update to the recreation component plan of the comprehensive plan. This is a state code requirement to update these plans every 5 years. Planning Commission has reviewed this, and I'll present the changes that have built out the plan and the changes that have occurred. I'd like to thank the committee that worked on this with me: Bob Glover, Doug Crum, Matt Bass, Ann Caldwell, and George Orstrom. All had great input into this update, and appreciate their work and their time. Purpose of the recreation plan is to address the recreational needs of the community, describing existing resources and how they will be protected and promoted. The goals are to meet the recreational needs of the community, increase awareness of all recreational activities, assist in maximizing the recreational value of existing assets, promote connectivity among the county's active and passive recreation resources, and update the plan as we're doing tonight. The strategies are to conduct periodic needs assessments, develop and update master plans, support the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, encourage partnerships with non-county and private recreational facilities. All these are consistent with the original plan and haven't changed. We also went on to define recreation. There's active recreation, which involves organized activities that require infrastructure such as playgrounds and ball fields. An example would be the Chet Hobart Park here outside of Berryville. And then we have a lot of passive recreation facilities that are low intensity recreation that emphasize the open space aspect of a park and allow for the preservation of natural habitat. An example of this would be Blandy or the Cool Spring Battlefield. We also looked at adjacent facilities, Lake Frederick in Frederick County and Sky Meadows. Both are in close proximity to our border. And we looked at special uses. These are our historic resources such as Long Branch, museums, Barnes of Rose Hill, bike routes, the Holy Cross Abbey, and driving tours. We have several. So the changes that we made from the original plan were, I'll go by them by page. You can flip if you want. But basically, page 7, we added partnerships to indicate we have federal, state, and nonprofit agencies that we partner with on various projects that we're doing related to recreation. We added information about the Appalachian Trail Hike brochure, which we produced last year, and the parking lot expansions, which were done with the help from the supervisors at Pine Grove, and also Morganville was recently completed in October to expand parking to hopefully keep some of the traffic off the roadways. We highlighted individual passive recreation sites to be consistent with the special use format, and that was basically just bulleting them or numbering them so that they have a similar format. We revised the description of Long Branch as that was outdated, and added Locks Mill because that is now an active working mill similar to the Burwell Morgan Mill. We added a section on Scenic Byways and also a map that details those roads, and I'll show that in a minute. We added a reference to the Hawkwatch sign that was installed in 2018 at Snickers Gap, and this is an informational sign that describes the hawk migration that goes through every fall, and a lot of people like to go up there and take photographs or have binoculars and check that out. We revised the Watermelon Park description. As many of you know, they've stopped doing their events, so we wanted to take all that out and just highlight that they're basically an RV campground at this point. We removed the reference to the family campground as it's similar to other private river lots that are rented, and we didn't feel that that was needed to be included. Not really active for recreation on a widespread basis, on a public basis. We revised the description of Mountain Lake Campground because we weren't quite sure if that was still open, but it is. They have a business license and they continue to rent slots. So there's a map in there that details all of our recreation resources, which are numerous, as you can see from the yellow boxes that have pointers to those various resources. And then, as I indicated, we have included a map of the Scenic Byways and also a list of those routes, both by name and route number. In conclusion, we've addressed the existing and potential recreational needs of the community, strategies to protect, promote, grow, and enhance active and passive resources, and work with private partners to support Parks and Rec Advisory Board. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. Anybody has any questions?
No questions, only comments. Thank you, Allison. Thank you to staff. And thank you to my colleagues on the Planning Commission and the Comprehensive Plan Committee who worked on this. This is one step in the right direction. Just so the rest of y'all know, we are currently undergoing a complete overhaul of the comprehensive plan. That doesn't mean changing everything. It means going through individual component plans, such as the recreation plan, to essentially spruce it up, bring it up current with the times, and with what we have to offer here in the county. So thank you again. Appreciate your hard work.
Question, you don't by any chance have the text on your computer, do you? That you can put up there?
So what?
Text?
Text of the plan? No. Sorry. I don't know if you can read it anyway. Was there a particular thing you were in?
Well, yeah, I wanted to read section 3, part 3B.
In our book, what page would that be?
It's on page 10 of 31. I think it's just mainly for the crowd tonight so that you can see this. It'll deal a little bit. Bear with me, I'll read it, or some of it. Facilitate more effective public use of Shenandoah River while simultaneously protecting it as a critical natural and environmental resource. And it goes on to describe the activities on the river. Promoting use of this unique recreational resource must be balanced with the critical need to protect it from pollution, erosion, corruption of the scenic value. And then there's another paragraph, and then the end of that paragraph, it says, and that the rights of landowners along the river are not unreasonably affected. An additional consideration is the impact of increased traffic on secondary roads and the neighbors living along those roads. I just thought I'd read that because I think that's what we're going to be talking about the next public hearing. And the planners thought about that and have given us some direction. I appreciate that.
Any comments from the board or questions? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public in the building that wish to speak on this plan? Yes, you would identify yourself and avail yourself of the microphone, and your name and address would be helpful.
My name is Jerome Driver. My wife and I have lived on Tilterner Mill Road for many, many years. And unfortunately, our driveway entrance is only.
Now, let me interrupt you just for a moment because this is not on the public hearing on what you're about to speak on.
Sorry.
So, no, my fault for a little less clarity.
Rabina Rich Buffo, Boyce. I've reviewed the proposed updates to the current recreation component plan and think that the adjustments made are very appropriate. Separating the recreational resources in the scenic bylaws into 2 maps instead of only 1 map is also a big improvement over the existing plan. I fully support the approval of this revised component plan.
All right, and are there any other comments that came in? Okay. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on item number 22. And is there a motion from the board?
We have a motion in the packet. So we have a motion.
I move for
If you're gonna move.
approval of the recreation component plan, or the comp plan.
I'll make a motion. I'll move to approve the recreation component plan.
Okay.
Thanks, Dad.
Any further comments from the board? Just reiterate, we thank staff, Allison for her leadership and as always on these issues and all the hard work put in by the
Thank you.
planning commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimous. Okay. Now, item number 23, Watermelon Park Pictures Fest, River and Roots Festival, single day special event. Or I open the public hearing or take comments from the board. Is the applicant present and does he wish to make a statement or read a statement?
Yes, I'm here, and I would like to make a statement.
All right, and there's a buzzing up here if that.
I think that came out of the computer.
All right, we'll live with it. Good evening, if you'll identify yourself.
First off, well, I'm Trevor Perini. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Weiss, Chairman of the board, members of the board, and the Clark County administration. As I said, I'm Trevor Perini, one of the co-owners of Shepherd's Ford Productions. I was born and raised in Clark County, a proud graduate of Clark County High School, class of 2008. Shepherd's Ford Productions was founded in Clark and has operated here for almost 2 decades. We're composed of 4 owners, all who have longstanding ties to the community and have a proven track record for producing events that foster economic development as well as proven stewardship of the Shenandoah River. I'm here today to inform the public of our intentions and ultimately ask for your approval of the permit submitted by Shepherd's Ford Productions to host Watermelon Pickers Fest, River and Roots Festival, and limited single-day events at the property located at 1352 Tilhammer Mill Road in Boyce, Virginia. So just a little bit of background on what we're actually applying for. Watermelon Pickers Fest would be the largest of the submitted events with a maximum attendance of 3,500 attendees and is scheduled for September 2021. The 16th annual Watermelon Park Fest, held in 2018 at Watermelon Park, sold out with 2,000 weekend camping tickets and 1,000 single-day tickets. The campers stay for all 3 days, and the single days just come for single day. River and Roots has been on hiatus for a few years, and we hope it will eventually bring in 1,500 to 2,000 attendees. However, attendance in June 2021 will likely be severely limited due to COVID-19, and it may not even happen if approved. Both festivals have a similar schedule for their respective weeks. We allow early arrival camping on Tuesday and Wednesday. Live music, workshops, food, and merchandise vendors will be operational Thursday through Saturday. Attendees are allowed to camp Saturday night, but must exit the property on Sunday. The music starts in the afternoon of Thursday and will be shut down by midnight each night per the county sound ordinance. We've notified and received approval from all county departments, including fire, EMS, building, health, and sheriff department, as well as state police and VDOT. I know there's some contingencies involved, and I can clear those up if there are any questions. I do believe we've adequately addressed all aspects of the permit that have been brought to our attention thus far. I'm aware that we're facing opposition for this permit. I'd like to state for the record that Shepherd's Ford Productions is not applying for a special use permit for a year-round campground or rezoning of the property at 1352 Tiltham Mill Road. We are only applying to host temporary events. I'd like to highlight the temporary nature of these events we are proposing. The events do not require a single building permit for any permanent structure, let alone rezoning. The stages, vendors, event area, waste disposal, restrooms, box office, site operations, etc., are all 100% mobile and/or temporary. We design the events this way in order to leave no trace. This leaves the property spotless for 50 weeks out of the year, other than the 150 cattle and haying operations. Furthermore, it provides the property owner with a way to earn some revenue on his investment without requiring any additional changes to the property. There are several DURs available, and I guarantee construction and housing would be a much bigger eyesore for year-round residents. And ultimately, a multi-million-dollar property investment needs to generate revenue, and a couple of temporary events with a proven track record seems like a win-win. I'd also like to address why we chose this property and why we believe it's the best place in Clark County to hold this event. I've heard things like, there are plenty of fields in Clark County. This is not the right place for this event, or just do it at the fairgrounds. I assure you, this decision was not made lightly. As I said before, Shepherd's Ford Productions has been operating events in this county for almost 2 decades. There are not many properties in the county that can check all of our boxes. First, this property is absolutely beautiful. We have a connection to this county and strive to make it a better place to live while showing the very best natural beauty it has to offer. Part of the reason Watermelon Park Fest grew into a successful event is that people want to leave the cities and towns they live in to experience local, national, and Grammy award-winning music in a beautiful setting, also preferably by the Shenandoah River. A chance to unwind and be on vacation in nature while enjoying world-class music with friends and family. That's a big reason why they keep coming back, and families have made it a reunion of sorts. In addition to the beauty, the size of this property provides us with much more logistical flexibility. This is paramount for 2021. We cannot assume that we'll be able to pack people in like we used to at Watermelon Park, nor do we want to. Watermelon Park Fest utilized 27 acres of the campground. With 250 plus acres available, we can ensure the event will not have to cancel, even if social distancing measures need to be adhered to. We had to cancel our event in 2020. This event and our company will not survive another cancellation. One final note is that the owner has expressed interest in conservation easements and continuing the agricultural business on the property. It currently has 150 cattle, and the events will not disturb them or the other farm operations. We are not advocating for a full-time campground like Watermelon Park. In conclusion, approval of this permit would do a great service to all parties involved. The county would have an event that has not only brings tourism, economic incentive, and investment, but is run by a local company with a track record they can trust. Adjoining property owners will enjoy the beautiful view 50 weeks out of the year, knowing that 2 weeks of events will help keep houses from being built across the river, preserving those beautiful views for years to come. The property owner can lease his land for 2 weeks in order to earn some revenue on a multi-million-dollar investment. I believe Shepherd's Ford Productions has adequately addressed all aspects of the permit and humbly ask for your approval. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to stay to answer any questions and address any concerns from the board and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does the board have any specific questions in relation to the application from the applicant himself?
Yes, but I suspect my colleagues do as well.
Go ahead.
So went down there, Trevor, just this past weekend and drove around a little bit. Did not have the benefit of a full tour, but the one thing I noticed was what appeared to be both electric and barbed wire fencing by the river. So basically, what's the deal with that? Is that going to go away?
We are not asking the owner to do anything to the property. Are you referring to the fencing along the river or just on the property?
Along the river.
Yeah, we have not asked for him to remove or keep that. We are going to, if the fence is not there, we will set up barriers to limit access to the river so that people can't just walk wherever they want to get down to it, and it'll be a safe access area.
And what kind of barriers did you have in mind?
Just temporary fencing.
They're like the orange kind, essentially? Orange plastic?
Plastic fencing, or it could be chain link as well.
And that would be for the entire stretch of the river?
Yeah, as I said, we're proposing to allow campers to arrive on Tuesday. Generally Monday, we arrive and set all the barriers and signage up.
And so what efforts, if any, would you make to keep people out of the river aside from the barriers, or is that all you have in mind?
There'll be signage. We have MCs, you know, if certain issues come up throughout the weekend, whatever they may be, we always just go to the stages and make a public announcement, you know, especially if something's happening over and over again and needs to stop. So yeah, we'll do that. And then we also just have signage and the barriers. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing then is that river access itself will not be permitted. Is that accurate?
No, only in certain areas, limited river access.
Okay.
So there'll be a break in the fence where appropriate.
And where is appropriate, if you know?
We need to do some more site visits and determine where those spots will be.
So, and I'm just not trying to, you know, be tough on you, but I want to understand, particularly because I have two small kids who would be running around and who would really want to get in the river. I would not want any concerns that they would be falling down what appears to be a steep bank for most of it, maybe not all, but I did not get a chance to go entirely down it. But so not only with the fencing, but also with respect to the river itself, did you have a chance to go down along the river?
Yeah, we did a site visit and just drove around. I know there are a couple cut-ins, and I know it's been disputed whether or not those are allowed or not. And again, we have not proposed any entry or exit points at all. We are just gonna pretty much go with what's there and determine what's safe and what's not safe for attendees as far as the steepness of the slopes and also trying to not destroy the vegetation.
And is it possible from a manpower perspective, if you are going to have open areas to access the river itself, to have personnel supervising essentially?
Yeah, we have full-time security and medical staff on site around the clock.
So I will move on from that.
And you will have an opportunity to ask questions later.
Okay. I have several other questions. I'm happy to defer, however, to my colleagues.
Yeah,
I don't want to take up all the room here.
Well, yeah, and we do have folks that are here to speak.
Sure.
So unless they're particular factual at this point. Any other somewhat limited questions at this point?
So we can ask questions at the end?
Yeah.
Save them for then.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank
you. Okay. Any other just comments from the board, or may I open the public hearing? All right, I will open the public hearing, and I assume we have a sign up. Okay, so we'll go in that order. Mr. Boyce, County Administrator, is going to keep time. His device will beep, and then I will let you wind down. So.
Belinda Burwell.
Okay.
And I was going to have my husband Jim go first, because my comment is going to follow this.
That's fine.
I know he's the next one on the list.
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. My name's Jim Clenkar, my wife Belinda Burrell, and I live on Tiltamer Mill Road, next to the proposed site. And we also farm 250 acres across the road from our home. I previously submitted via email a letter opposing this application. I have copies I can leave with you if you want. These are the highlights. One, the application is misleading. This board has never previously approved this site for these events. Moreover, the October 9, 2020 letter to me and my wife, which was included in the application, was never received by us. And tonight we're hearing for the first time about barriers to the river, and there's nothing in the application about any of that other than some vague generalities we just heard. 2, this site is not safe. 3,500 attendees each day equates to between 4 and 6 miles of vehicular traffic on Tiltamer Mill Road alone. 1,000 plus cars at 20 feet per car equals 20,000 linear feet of traffic. Do the math. Not including the normal traffic on Tiltamer Mill Road, the people going in and out of the site to buy supplies, and people trying to get in without tickets. Tiltamer Mill Road will be a parking lot. At midnight, when the music ends, the thousands of attendees will be leaving at the same time from the narrow entrance at the base of a hill. In addition to the problems with the traffic on Tiltamer Mill Road, traffic will back up on Route 340 and Route 50. People coming from Berryville on Route 340 will be making a left-hand turn at Old Chapel or in downtown Weiss in front of oncoming traffic. Attendees eastbound on Route 50 will similarly have to make a left-hand turn at Route 23 in front of oncoming traffic traveling at 55 plus miles an hour. The letter from VDOT in the application, which he says indicates that VDOT has approved this, itself justifies denial of this application because it specifically makes reference to the fact that it is a certainty that through traffic will be obstructed and that traffic will back up onto Tiltamer Mill Road, either of which, according to the VDOT letter submitted in the application, is in itself a basis to deny this application. Those are certainties. Tiltamer Mill Road will be a parking lot. 3, the Shenandoah River and its soft silt banks in this floodplain area will be damaged. The fencing and riparian buffer along the river has been removed by the current owner, and campers and attendees will be going in and out of the river by the thousands, particularly in the hot summer months. I think there's a reference to 8 security people supposedly guarding 3,500 people from coming in and out of the river. I don't think so. This violates Virginia's policy of protecting streams and stream banks. Given the limited water and lack of showers, campers can be expected to use the river to bathe. Given the limited number of portable toilets, by their calculation, 1 per 75 people, so 3,500 attendees plus musicians works out to 50 portable toilets. Given the limited number of portable toilets, the river will likely be used as a toilet. Trash will end up in the river, and gasoline for the multiple portable generators is likely to be spilled on the floodplain. This site is simply not suitable or safe for these events. They can be held at the Clark County Fairgrounds, which is not in floodplain, has ease of access, electricity, and water. Having it at the fairgrounds will not create these traffic hazards or damage the Shenandoah River. Please deny the application. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was also remiss in forwarding some information to you that we just received this evening at 3:19 p.m. I will read it. It is from Ed Carter with VDOT. Brianna, we have aired with this letter. That would be the letter that Mr. Clincar just referenced. Bobby thought the application was for Watermelon Park and responded accordingly. We are going to have to withdraw the permit until we review in the field at the new location. Sorry for the confusion. We will look after the storm is over. I apologize for not making that public first. I frankly forgot. So, okay, next on the list.
Hi, I'm Belinda Burrow, and I live at 1150 Tiltamer Mill Road, adjoining this proposed venue. I have the following objections to this application. Shepherd's Ford Production in this application claims to have mailed notification of special event to us on October 9th. We did not receive any notification and do not know of any neighbors who did. I learned about this from John Stalin on December 5th. The first page of the application is misleading. As the name implies, this is a single day event. The attached event plan lists 2 separate 3-day events with 5 days of camping and also asks for an undefined number of single day events every year for 3 years. And I mention that because people I showed the application to mistakenly thought it was just a 1-day event. The number of attendees expected at these events will be about 3,500 people. On event days, approximately 1,500 vehicles will need to access this venue from Tiltamer Mill Road by exiting onto a single one-lane farm entrance, threaded between Spout Run and the steep edge of Vineyard Hill. Vehicles will back up for distances estimated to be 2 to 5 miles, creating hazardous backups on the many blind curves and hills of this narrow road. We believe this will restrict our ability to access and care for our livestock and the rescued wildlife on our farm, which is located on both sides of Tiltamer Mill Road. These animals include cattle, horses, and injured wildlife, including bald eagles, foxes, owls, and a variety of other wild species. Injured and sick rescued animals are dropped off and picked up there daily, and this festival traffic could prevent rescuers' access. During these events, loudspeakers will be broadcasting music and voices from 12 noon until 12 midnight next to our home. Wildlife, including bald eagles and owls, are very sensitive to noise. Voices and sounds of people create fear and stress in wild animals and causes them to flee. When confined to a cage, they will run or fly at the walls of the cage, injuring themselves. Our success with saving wildlife and has been credited to the quiet, low-stress environment there. The noise and stress created by this festival could be deadly for these animals. This past June, we had 2 recovering bald eagles in our flight cage, which is just up the hill from the proposed stage. I do not believe these eagles could have survived 3 days of loud music from which they cannot escape. And every year in June, we're releasing orphan foxes we've rescued and raised. They're released from outdoor den cages with food supplied while they explore and learn where to find and how to catch food for themselves. I fear the noise and disturbance of this festival will cause them to flee the area before they're able to survive on their own. The need to avoid noise and people is why wildlife rescue centers are located away from populated areas. No one would start a wildlife rescue center next to a place like Watermelon Park because the noise would be too stressful for the animals. I also have concerns about the erosion of the Shenandoah riverbank and the pollution that will be created. I was down there in July and saw where the campers were that the fencing had been removed along the riverbank and the riparian brush had been removed too. I just think that's going to create increased pollution in the river. The Clark County Fairgrounds is a much safer venue for this event. Keeping events of this size in that area will preserve beautiful natural habitats in Clark County is so hard to protect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Could I ask one question?
Yes.
Because through the Wildlife Center, don't always, when you drive by, you don't even realize it's there sometimes. But what area does it serve? Is it, like it's not more than
animals coming in from all over Northern Virginia and West Virginia and even from Maryland, all the way down to Woodbridge,
West of Bunker Hill, north up past Berkeley Springs, and south, pretty much down past Warrenton to Culpeper.
And how long have wildlife been taken care of in this area, between you and the neighboring one?
15, 16 years.
Thank you. Next.
Joe Anderson.
Welcome.
I'll probably have to use my glasses.
That's fine.
I'm starting to use these.
Oh, you haven't had the fun yet, I see.
I'm working on that. It's okay.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate your service and your time and consideration.
Give your name and your address.
My name is Kuno Anderson. I live at 698 Silver Road in Louis. And I'm here to talk about the River Farm or the Watermelon Pickles Festival application at the River Farm. I moved into Clark County with my wife 2016 after a long career in law enforcement. 30 years. I've always wanted to move to Clark County because of everything that Clark County represents. Peace and tranquility and so on. The Shenandoah River, the boundaries. After dealing with law enforcement in Northern Virginia for 30 years, we were very fortunate enough to find a big spot. That is nestled between some conservation easements with some good views, close access to the river. I just learned of this application December 5th, as well as most of the neighbors on Tiltamer Mill Road. To date, no one has notified me. I was notified through other neighbors that this was an application that had been submitted. For those of you who don't know Tilhammer Mill Road, I just want to describe it to you. I know I've read a number of letters that have come in, and I'm pretty much just going to highlight some of the things. But it can best be described as an unposted and narrow, windy road with a number of curves that have limited visibility for oncoming traffic. It's been designated as a scenic byway by the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and it's well known and frequently used by many motorcycles, car clubs, and mostly bicyclists on weekends. In the summertime, we know that vehicle traffic increases, people using the river, going back and forth with their equipment and so on. And I think anyone on Tilhammer Mill Road pretty much accepts that as it is. And certainly in the fall, we have the leaf watchers that are out going slow and looking at the mountain. Still, that being said, the vehicle traffic normally dies down, if you will, for lack of better words, at sundown, and it comes to a crawl. Having this festival going on, bringing 3,500 people that they estimate they're ticket buyers, not to mention, which I don't think has been said tonight, anything about vendors, the number of vendors, the number of employees that might be there to operate this, could probably go into effect as many as 200 people. So that's just another 200 cars going up and down the roads that they're not familiar with at night. Although it says the music stops at midnight, the music does not stop at midnight because it continues on until the campgrounds. Campgrounds continue to go all night long until the early morning hours with their music. And as far as any of the attendees that are there for the day are going to be leaving and trying to get out of the driveway, which is a single lane driveway. It's bounded by a fence and a hillside. So I certainly have concerns about that as far as, from a public safety perspective, if the fire department needs to get down in there, there's no way in except for that one way. And if people are trying to leave and the fire department's going in, they're not going to be able to get in.
I could ask you to wrap it up.
Yep, that's what I'm in the process. So I ask that you deny this permit. From what I've experienced, learned, and observed, I truly believe that these commercial outfits are trying to operate under the guise of a music festival permit, and have possibly found a backdoor for creating a travel trailer, a camp recreation area. From what I understand, they have been served with papers earlier this year, a notice of violation for running a campground. I'm very familiar with that because the owner of that property, Steve Niswander,
Thank you, sir.
lives at 620 Tilhammer Mill Road and did the same thing last year. Property there.
Thank you.
Running a campground.
Thank you. Just as a point of, no, but you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead. You're good. Just good. For the general information of the audience, whatever the gentleman referenced was not in reference to Shepherd's Ford production. Just as a point of clarification. I get to do that because I'm chair, so I can do that sometimes. Sorry.
Point out that it was on that location.
No, I'm not going to go into the offense. I'm just going to say that it was not lodged at this applicant. Okay.
Tom Turpak.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Tom Turpak, and I live at 3024 Combs Neck Lane. Going to be as brief as I can here. Wanted to thank you for your services. Wanted to reiterate the fact that this is a permit for the festivals and not a lot of the items that, being in the Combs Neck community, I've been party to a lot of emails looking for a group to protest this. I'm all for it. I fully endorse it. I've attended it. And there's a lot to say, and I'm
You're fine.
Primarily, I want to endorse it. There's a lot of misinformation going around, comprehension of things. I've reviewed the permit, I've reviewed documents, legal regarding all the different arguments that I see against it. And I could shoot all those down, but this isn't a debate forum. So I just wanted to, I've submitted letters with my opinions and my concerns about the strong arming tactics that were going on, misrepresentation of an entire community by a single person. I don't know how I'm against the fact that there was a petition going to go around, but no verbiage, just asked for, there were a lot of things going on here that I know you guys look at really well. And I just wanted you to know that there are residents of the community that want events like this to happen because they are very beneficial to the town and the community. That's,
Thank you, sir.
that covers it.
Very good. Thank you.
you.
Next.
Stacy St. Clair.
Good evening.
Everyone, I wrote down a few things, so I hopefully won't take up too much time, and I'll remember everything I need to say. I've also submitted letters.
If you could just give your address, sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, I also live at 3024 Commies Neck Lane. I'm in the Commies Neck neighborhood. And I've also been party to a lot of the emails that were going around and a lot of the strong arming and misinformation and jumping to conclusions that have taken a request to have events only a couple times of the year and jumped ahead to a conclusion where suddenly people are asking for permanent structures and campgrounds and things of that nature that aren't even a part of what's going on. And I think a lot of this misinformation is frightening people about an event that has actually been a beloved part of our community for a long time. I'm 100% in favor. I'm in favor of it as a Commies Neck resident. Seeing that that might take place for us across from our river left me thrilled and overjoyed to see a beloved event that folks have come back to, that we have second generation people experiencing. The company that puts on this production is not affiliated with any kind of a campsite that they run. Instead, they're bringing culture and they're bringing a sense of community, and they're continuing a musical tradition that the Appalachian area is known for. Families return to it again and again. Sorry, I'm already like losing my train of thought, but I'm very passionate about this. Part of what they do is they promote caring for the environment and promote caring for the river. Patrons on their own, when it was at Watermelon Park and we're in the water, conducted, river cleanup activities. As a volunteer at the Kids Tent, we have environmental stewardship and education and outreach for the kids. They've partnered with environmental organizations year after year after year. I continue to hear the argument, oh, just have it at the fairgrounds. We've actually had to have it at the fairgrounds once due to flooding. As Trevor eloquently explained, with COVID-19 and social distancing necessities, and people being nervous about that level of togetherness, the additional space allows people to keep their areas separate and much more quiet. This beloved family tradition is something that I have felt safe bringing my own child to year after year after year, and our families have grown up here. And I wanted to speak 100% in favor of their permit and 100% in favor of having the event on the Shenandoah River. The river is available for everyone to enjoy and is a big part of our community, and having the location in nature at the farm allows people to spread out and experience nature and not be crammed in together in a residential area that is much, much smaller and doesn't have the shade and the environmental stewardship that is a big part of these festivals. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jerome Garver.
You just had a dry run before, sir, so you're ready to go.
I was anxious to get some things said.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you've got your time.
My name is Jerome Garber. I live at 1391 Tiltamer Mill Road. And my wife and I have been there for many, many years. And unfortunately, our driveway is about 120 feet from the entrance to the river farm. Now, with backup of traffic on Tiltamer Mill Road, it is bound to cause us a lot of inconvenience, maybe even deny us access to our driveway. Got a lot of things here that I want to go over, but I'm not going to have time. One of the main reasons that Tiltamer Mill Road and Clay Hill Road are not designed to carry large volumes of traffic. There are numerous hills, numerous flying curves. Some of these flying curves are located on top of a hill, and it is not a safe road for large volumes of traffic. Now, on Tiltamer Mill Road, there is one turn in particular, which is a cutback curve, and have approximately 120 degrees. Now, no one can negotiate that turn safely at any more than 10 miles an hour. People who are not familiar with that road, a lot of times are going to be traveling a lot faster than that. There have been occasions in the past where people have failed to negotiate that turn. They have gone down over a bank into a small stream. One side of that turn, there is no shoulder. You have to hug the bank in order to make the turn. The other side of the road has no guardrail. I myself have been forced off the Tiltamer Mill Road on a blind hill, forced me completely off the road and through my neighbor's mailboxes. This is what can happen on a narrow, windy, hilly road. Now, the entrance to the river farm is at the bottom of a very steep hill, and if traffic is backed up, people coming down that hill will have a difficult time stopping. Now, also, there is a very beautiful waterfalls on Tiltamer Mill Road. It attracts a lot of attention. Even in the summertime. I'm sorry, I gotta move it.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Even in the summertime, when there are 4 or 5 cars there, it requires 1, 2, 3 service calls from the sheriff's department. Now, not all of them are 911 calls, but the sheriff's department is cooperating with the local owners in making daily run-bys there to remove trespassers. So, can you imagine what 3,000 people will do?
I can ask you to sum it up.
Well, I know there are some people who are in favor of this, but I would ask you, as board members, would you want this event your next door? Now, I bet that a lot of those people who are in favor of it, if you ask them if they wanted it next door to them, they would say no. So please vote against it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Katie Priest.
Good evening.
Good evening, my name is Katie Priest. I live at 19 Shepherd Court Lane in Vermont. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak to you this evening in favor of granting a permit to Shepherd's Ford Productions. I have a unique perspective because not only am I an attendee of the festival and a yearly volunteer in the kids tent, but I also live directly across the river from the previous location of the Watermelon Park Festival. And I'm here to say that I've never had an issue with having this festival in my neighborhood. It is unfortunate that we've had to move locations, but by granting your approval for this new location on Tilthammer Mill Road, we can continue to celebrate a decades-long tradition in Clark County that can ensure that the neighbors of my concerns are addressed. Watermelon Park Festival is a family-oriented event that has found a home in Clark County for many decades. Generations of residents have enjoyed this historic bluegrass festival along the beautiful banks of the Shenandoah River. Children that used to attend with their parents are now coming back with their own families. The history of this festival and the tourism money that it brings to Clark County is irreplaceable. The people that attend Watermelon Park Festival are a tight-knit community that often feels like family. The festival is for the young, the old, and everyone in between. We come together to celebrate music and nature, and we take pride in taking care of the Shenandoah and the lands that surround it. Over the years, Shepherd's Ford Productions has partnered and donated to many nonprofit organizations that focus on keeping the river clean and spreading awareness of the necessity of river stewardship. This includes Friends of the Shenandoah River, the Piedmont Environmental Council, Shenandoah River Keepers, and the Downstream Project. As a matter of fact, each year there are several educational kids activities for the many families that attend, one of which is always related to the environmental stewardship. Shepherd's Ford Productions has always kept the river and the community at the forefront of the festival, and I have no doubt that they will continue to do so with their new location. I respectfully request that you approve the permit for Shepherd's Ford Productions. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
John Staley.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm John Stalen. I live on Clay Hill Road outside Millwood. Everybody loves music. Everybody likes being outside with friends. Everybody thinks the applicant is a very nice person. Those aren't up for discussion tonight. What is the issue tonight is whether the application before you meets the county's ordinances. I trust you've read the letter that I wrote that was in your packet, and it listed 4 specific reasons why the event does not meet our ordinances, one being on-site public safety, another being off-site public safety, another being environmental damage, and the final one being the failure to notify neighbors as required by the ordinance. Each one of those issues, standing alone, should be enough to cause you to deny the application. However, tonight I want to bring up 2 additional problems with the application. First, the event ordinance, not the application. The event ordinance specifically states the applicant shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws, ordinances, regulations, including zoning ordinance provisions and special use provisions applicable to the property. Well, the map for the event shows a campground. That is a use that requires a special use permit according to county ordinances. The proposed event site does not have such a special use permit. Now, I believe Watermelon Park and the fairgrounds are grandfathered in for such purposes, but this property has never been approved for that, and in fact was closed down for such purpose this past summer. Now, I've heard some say that camping should be an ancillary use to the event and thus should be allowed. I disagree with that interpretation, as there's nothing in the event ordinance or our special use regulations that supports that view. The event ordinance is extremely clear that all zoning rules must be followed. Additionally, the proposed event is scheduled for 3 days, while camping is proposed for 6 days. So even with the most liberal interpretation, one that I don't support, the application is asking for 3 non-event camping days on the land which is not zoned for that purpose. Again, I think it would be legal and other, the event would be legal at Watermelon Park and the fairgrounds, but not on this site. The second issue I want to raise is the impact on two neighboring organizations, neither of which was given the required legal notice of the event. Both the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center and Belinda Burrow, who spoke earlier, are state certified wildlife rescue centers. And we should be really proud to have groups like this. They're right adjacent to this proposed site. Together, they've invested over $1 million in infrastructure and equipment. And in addition to rehabilitating wild animals, they employ local citizens, train interns, conduct classes for children, and provide obviously the services to the wildlife. They followed all the county regulations, and in case of the Blue Ridge Center, they received a special use permit from this board for those purposes. I know the time's up, so I will say that Belinda's talk, but the Wildlife Center wrote a letter. You may not have been able to read it because it came in just in the last several hours. I've read it, and it is very clear that they believe this would be a serious effect on their day-to-day operations, would likely cause adverse health problems for the animals involved they're trying to save. I encourage you to read those letters, and I don't think you want to do anything that would impact the state certification of these groups. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jeffrey Steck.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Jeffrey Stack, and I live at 159 Oak Cliff Lane in Boyce, Virginia. I'm part of the Calmy's Neck neighborhood. My bedroom window is, as a crow flies, 160 feet from the edge of the campground. If you look at, I sent in photos. If you look at the photos, my property is on one side of the river, his is on the other. I see the entire campground, every inch of it from side to side. Would you want this concert or campers playing music to all hours, 160 feet from your bedroom? I respectfully ask that you deny this application. This homeowner has illegally run a campground over this past summer,
That's fine.
which I helped to get shut down through the help of Clark County. And he is cut in 5 mud access points to the river. 4 of them are actually mud. One, he installed an aluminum ladder so that they could get down there. That bank is from 10 to 20 feet high. It levels off a little bit as it goes down toward the spring, but there's no natural access to the river from this land. So everything has to be cut in. He has clear cut almost a mile of the riverbank, where we try really hard in our neighborhood to protect everything that's on the river's edge. I've been denied cutting down 3 sapling sycamore trees because they're protected, and they're still there. So I respectfully ask you to decline this based on, I'm worried that this is going to turn into a full-time campground, and that's has always been the goal of this owner to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
That's everyone who signed up.
Okay. Is there anyone here that has not signed up would like to speak? Yes. You'll come forward and identify yourself.
Evening, board members. My name is Bruce Anderson. My wife Debbie is here. We recently moved into Clark County, largely because of the ambiance and the quiet. I was the state health director in Hawaii, and actually was commissioner overseeing the environmental programs there for almost 30 years. I retired last year, and we purchased the property that's on the corner of Tilthammer Mill Road and Millwood Road, a 30-acre parcel. As you look up the hill, is ours. We moved here because of the ambiance and the zoning, and because we really appreciated the open agricultural zoning of the area. You've heard a lot of comments tonight, and I won't repeat a lot of the concerns that are raised, but I think a couple of things need to be emphasized. One is this activity is not going to just impact adjacent property owners. We've witnessed over the last months traffic. We know it better than probably anyone else in this room, meaning that we have seen traffic going on both parts of our property. And there are cars racing down the road at 55 plus miles an hour at all hours. And that is a concern. The fact that these concerts and let me add, it's not just the two events that are being proposed. There's an unspecified number of events that are anticipated that are part of the application. But just the two events alone is, as I understood it in the application, and I only know from when I read in the application what's proposed, but there are 5,000 patrons expected at those two events alone. And this is a recurring event. That's going to increase the traffic 20 to 100-fold over what it is now, at least during those periods of time. And it's not just the time of the concerts. People are going to be enjoying the concerts, drinking into the evenings, and there's going to be a period of time before the concerts, setting up for the concerts, after the concerts, where you're going to see increased traffic and other congestion. So I think the activities that are being proposed are going to have far-reaching consequences, far beyond what was been discussed. You've heard issues related to traffic, but let me speak a little bit to the environmental concerns, which I have some expertise in talking about. To think that people are going to use porta potties for several days and not relieve themselves otherwise is naive at best. There's very little discussion in the application, and again, I only know what's in the application of the infrastructure being available, but the solid waste disposal, not to mention all the other issues associated with food handling, and so forth. It's going to be a significant concern. This is not an area that's zoned for commercial concerts or other activities or a commercial campground. There simply is not the infrastructure here to support that. And I would be concerned about that. And finally, let me just say that I certainly appreciate all the comments about the Shenandoah River being pristine and something we need to protect. The reason we moved to this county from Hawaii, we could have moved anywhere we wanted to, anywhere in the country, was because of the pride that you all take in preserving and protecting your environment. And again, I really don't think this activity is going to be consistent with your the principles that you've laid out here and your ultimate wanting to protect our environment over above commercial activity. So I'm over time a little bit, but I'm glad to answer any questions you might have on my written testimony, which was submitted earlier, which goes into more detail. But
Yes,
thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Okay, if there is no one else that wishes to speak that's here, yes, sir.
David, I just wondered if you had received the communication that I sent.
Yes, sir, Mr. Nagamore.
Is that going to be entered in the record?
It is.
Very good.
It is. Thank you. Thank you for, didn't think you were going to join us tonight, so I hope your procedure went well. All right, if it's okay with the board, we will have Brianna play some of the comments that she has. So it is 7:30. Yeah. Okay. Oh, let me, Terri reminded me, Supervisor Catlett reminded me, she has a opinion from a person who really, due to COVID, really ought not have been here. So she's going to read that and then we'll listen to the comments.
Yes, this gentleman wrote to the board, feels very strongly, then very much wanted to be here tonight, but due to some health concerns, was not able to be here tonight. He shortened up the letter that he had submitted, and I agreed to read it for him due to the extenuating circumstances. So I will read this. It says, my name is Joe Nolter, and I live at Commies Neck in Boyce, Virginia. I have read the Shepherd's Ford special event permit application along with the Code of Clark County and the Clark County zoning ordinance. In my opinion, the Shepherd's Ford permit application for 9 music festivals with overnight camping should not have been submitted nor accepted, and I will tell you why. The Code of Clark County states, quote, "No application shall be submitted or accepted unless presented with all additional material required by this ordinance," unquote. Permit applicants are required to identify and notify all applicant adjacent property owners. This permit application does not do so. It systemically ignores the community of Collins Neck, zoned rural residential located about 250 feet across the Shenandoah River. Please look at my attached map to see that many Commies Neck properties satisfy the definition of adjacent properties. Why omit identifying the Commies Neck community? Because if Commies Neck is ignored, so are the zoning ordinance requirements and obligations. This is much more than an administrative or clerical oversight. The Clark County zoning ordinance states, quote, "The burden of proof shall be on the applicant to show they will not cause an undue adverse effect on neighboring property and will not cause undue noise, light, or glare," unquote. This application does not show how it will satisfy the zoning requirements, especially the noise requirements contained in Chapter 120 of the Code of Clark County. Please think of this. 250 feet is the distance from this room to the Barns of Rose Hill. You and your family are at home trying to sleep, and 250 feet away is a 3-day festival with alcohol available to an expected 3,500 attendees, using bright stage lights and playing amplified music from noon until midnight. How many attendees, after a few drinks, will think it is a good idea to explore your backyard? This happened at the same festivals when held at Watermelon Park. See attachment 2. Think of the confrontations that may take place on the Shenandoah Riverbank at Commies Neck. I've learned that when alcohol and people get together at large events, anything can happen, anything. This application's fatal flaw is not the clerical omission of failing to notify adjacent property owners. Its fatal flaws are its close proximity to the rural residential neighborhood of Commies Neck, and it doesn't meet Clark County zoning ordinance. I think it would be unfortunate for the Board of Supervisors to approve this permit application, knowing that it does not satisfy the Code of Clark County or the Clark County zoning ordinance. These are good documents and they should be followed. I depend on my county government to do so. Thank you for your consideration of this important matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's listen to comments. We'll try to allot about the same amount of time, so roughly 45 minutes, if we have that many, which I think we do.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda Cummings commented, "This email is in support of Watermelon Park Fest permit. Please consider the Shepherd's Ford permit application for events at 1352 Tilthammer Mill Road to be included in the minute December 15th public hearing." Andrea Torson, owner since 2003 of property located at 3968 Commies Neck Lane, Boise, Virginia. Thank you for providing an opportunity to comment on the application requested by Shepherd's Ford Productions for proposed events at 1352 Tilthammer Mill Road, Boise, Virginia. Landowner Steve Nieswander. I have a home on Commies Neck Lane in Clark County. I oppose this application. My opposition is based on concerns that are not limited to a single event, because approval of any special event is likely to lead to applications for other fee-generating activities or events on that property, including campground rentals, which involve non-residential or non-agricultural use by members of the public. These concerns include the negative impacts such events or activities will have on our property value, the wildlife and plants, and members of the public who use the river for free for recreational kayaking, canoeing, or fishing. The stretch of river from the public launch site by the bridge at Route 50 and down along Commies Neck is incredibly beautiful. It is such a treasure. A short day trip on the river can feel like a world away from everything, providing needed break and renewal of the soul for busy adults, a wonderful experience of nature for families with children who can easily spot on a single afternoon many different species near the water, in the water, or swimming above the surface, and a deep sense of appreciation that such a pristine area has been preserved. That's why my husband and I decided to buy our place there. We love it. The proposed event or similar events would bring large groups of people for extended periods, which will produce a high level of noise, disrupt, or drive away wildlife, further degrade the vegetation on the riverbank along that property, which appears to have been removed in connection with recent campgrounds use of the property and significantly detract from the experience for people passing by on the river. We are happy that other people enjoy that stretch of the river as well. We do not feel we own it or want to keep other people who don't live there from enjoying it. The concerns is with having the rare, unspoiled character changed so dramatically by a single property owner for that owner's private benefit. Members of the public can already enjoy that stretch of river, generally in small groups and for short duration, in its current natural state. For the public to enjoy the proposed event and similar activities, this location is not needed because there are other available locations right in Clark County or other places nearby that are already suited to such activities. Although I am not a full-time resident in Clark County, we pay our property taxes, shop locally, and use the services of local contractors. We care very much about the community and the environment there. I appreciate your consideration of these concerns. Howard and Carol Borgstrom. This is to express our strong opposition to special event application by Shepherd Sports Productions LLC for 1352 Tilton Mill Road, Weiss, Virginia. We object not only to the substance of the application, but also to the reception of the review process. While our mailing address is in Fairfax County, we own lot 55 on these Neck Estates, immediately across the Shenandoah River from the former McIntyre Farm property. Being considered for all of these special events. The McIntyres were good neighbors who cared about the Colony's Neck community across the river, and they were conscientious about maintaining vegetative borders to preserve stream quality. The current owners have been actively reducing the protective border and have been unreliable in adhering to special use restrictions. For the board, you should check with county staff on the number of reports of tree cutting and campsite rental during the past year. These people should not be given any open-ended, multi-year, or unsupervised permits, period. The application claims to have been submitted to adjacent landowners, whereas we only learned about the application this month. While we on Colony's Neck may be separated from the applicant's property by the river, it is sickening to think of what 3,500 attendees will produce in the way of waste, noise, sediment, and light pollution. Clark County has an easement authority with a solid reputation for preservation of our natural resources, but this progress would be rapidly undone by approval of this application. Carol Sullivan for LQH Ranch. I'm writing on behalf of LQH Ranch located on Clay Hill Road to go on record as being vehemently opposed to the proposed RV Park and Music Festival PH 2020-06 being discussed by the Board of Supervisors Tuesday, December 15th. The potential environmental, traffic, and public safety issues connected with this proposal would be a nightmare for all. Celeste Burrell, 13630 North Fairfax Highway, Weiss, Virginia. I'm not opposed to events per se. I do wonder what type of music events and what type of people will attend. I don't think the property proposed is a good use for this agricultural land. The proximity to the river and limited access makes for a disaster waiting to happen. The negative impact on the river, the traffic, the access, and the frequency of the event, as well as the campground, leaves many unanswered questions. Who controls the traffic? How will the emergency vehicles access the property when there is only limited access? Has there been an entrance evaluation for the property by the highway department? What type of septic and sewage systems will be in place? How will the noise ordinance be upheld? Have the surrounding neighbors been advised of this? How about the animal conservation facilities? Will the animals be impacted? Will their operations be impacted? I remember the last year of White Coast celebrates. Over 25,000 people showed up. What if that happens as there is no upper limit? What will be the impact on the Shenandoah River? Aside from pollution, what about the small road and the limit real access? You know it would be trashed. I strongly urge the Board of Supervisors to not approve this application, especially with the unknowns not properly addressed in their application, and for protecting the rural character of Clark County. It does not need another large venue site. I would prefer the use of the routine ground with good access to roads, emergency services, highway, and built-in septic and water supply. Cornelius Holcomb commented, I am writing in support of the petition by Shepherd's Fort to hold the Watermelon Park Bluegrass Fest at 1352 Tilthammer Mill Road. This music festival is family friendly and preserves traditional bluegrass music and dates back to the 60s. We support local artists. David Borger, President, Northern Shenandoah Valley Audubon Society. The mission of the Northern Shenandoah Valley Audubon Society, NSVAS, is to conserve and restore natural ecosystems, focusing on birds, other wildlife, and their habitat in Clark County and adjacent counties. On December 8, 2020, the Board of Directors voted unanimously to 1. Express their objection to the permit PH 2020-06 Watermelon Pickers Fest River and Root Festival Single Day Event Special Event Permit application, and to formally request that the Board of Supervisors of Clark County conduct a comprehensive environmental impact assessment to identify the impact of a large event of this nature being conducted in an area zoned for agricultural use. The proposed venue for this event comes with sensitive wildlife habitat for more than 130 species of birds, including nesting bald eagles. The NSVAS Board of Directors believes that the proposed event will cause permanent harm to the riparian buffer along the riverbank due to people trying to access the river. The board is concerned that the noise and light pollution from the music event, campers, and traffic will cause harm to wildlife. In addition, the influx of thousands of people is likely to result in litter and waste ending up in the river, impacting the health of people and wildlife. We urge the Board of Supervisors of Clark County to protect and preserve this natural area that is part of the fabric that makes Clark County unique. Richard Watkins, Shepherd's Fort Productions LLC. The senior application process will be more involved this year. I'm sure you will have seen the letter from Mr. Speck, our pending festival application. I am requesting that the board fact check any submission you have received for consideration in this matter. I am aware of differences in the letter to the county and the letter to the other landowners. I want to make sure the board is accurately informed on all matters before it. The objection seems to be based by someone other than the applicant. I nor my business have ever tried to start an illegal campground, etc. We have no ties to the property. This is a straight up short-term lease with no plans to do anything other than what we stated. Shepherd's Fort Productions LLC is a respected business in our community with a long history of working with the county to mend fences. If Mr. Stack has a beef with Mr. Neiswander or the county, it is a separate matter from anything Shepherd's Fort Productions has before you. Shepherd's Fort Productions remains as always interested in working with our neighbors to create solutions for matters that pertain to our efforts. We cannot, however, be accountable for matters not pertaining to us. Shepherd's Fort Production is in contact with County Administrator's Office to determine all current procedures involved in the public hearing process. I will not be assuming the person, however, I will wish to know the proper way to have our perspectives included. If the Board Administrator have any questions for the applicant, please inquire. We are available anytime to help clarify these matters. My name is J. King Gilbert, and I am a resident of Colony's Neck State. I would like to formally voice my concerns with the festival application from Island Farms, applicant under Shepherd's Fort Production LLC. I'm concerned about the impact this will have on my property, which is directly across from the farm, and the environment. I witnessed firsthand this past summer of the impact of the illegal campsites that were set up on this property. Loud music, land being demolished, trash, and just overall unsightly appearance of what was there. I'm concerned that this festival application is just a workaround to get a full-blown campsite operating on this piece of land, a foot in the door, if you will. There seems to be plenty of other places in Clark County for these events to take place. Don't need to add another one. I fully understand the owner of this property is trying to maximize its value by bringing in other revenue streams, but it was zoned agricultural for a reason. It should stay that way. James Ferguson and Sarah Houston, the trio, 1527 Colmie's Neck Lane, Boys, Virginia. We are residents of Colmie's Neck with a home that looks out over Island View Farm, and we write regarding their application to hold large events. We wish to voice our concern in opposition to this plan as it would have several negative impacts on us directly, but also on the community and the environment of the stretch of the Shenandoah. The stretch of the Shenandoah north of Route 50 is very unusual in that it has forestry on the east bank that is under a conservation easement in agricultural land on the west bank, which I also was under the impression had an easement on it. This means that it is quiet and abundant in nature and is not impacted by private residence properties or campsites. We and many in the community have enjoyed this over the decades, both directly for kayaking, but also as our home overlooks that same stretch from a height of 800 feet above Old Colmie's Neck Ridge. Despite the height, we enjoy the tranquility of view and the peace and quiet. We can hear cows down on the farm land despite the height distance. We have been saddened this summer by the illegal camping on this stretch of river. While we don't begrudge anyone getting outdoors during the pandemic, there are plenty of legal formal camping sites along the Shenandoah, including Watermelon Park, which provides ample camping and event venue space for Clark County and leaves us wondering why more would be needed in our small county at the expense of this uniquely tranquil stretch of river and associated community. Large events would result in increased noise. If we can hear cows below, we will certainly hear crowds and concerts, increased waste and pollution in the river, and the loss of an unimpacted natural stretch of river. Joey LeBron, 726 Colmie's Neck Lane. I'm a property owner in Colmie's Neck and am aware of the proposed concert venue being discussed on the former McIntyre farm. We have been residents here for about 8 years and love the lit and tranquility of the area. We got out loving here for that very reason. I'm an avid outdoorsman and very much in tune with the wildlife and the beauty of the area. We are very concerned with the respect of this being a concert venue from a residence on the ridge. We can clearly hear the cattle across the river on Tilthammer Mill Road, as if they're on our property. This is more than 2 miles away. I can only imagine the volume in which a crowded concert would project. On a clear night, I can actually hear concerts at Watermelon Park from my back deck, which is miles away. This will be tenfold at the proposed site. Since the onset of COVID, there has already been a tremendous surge of people from the more urban areas of Northern Virginia trying to find space. This has been an intrusion in itself against our rural way of life. Homes are selling as soon as they hit the market, for oftentimes more than the asking price. We are receiving unsolicited requests about selling our house. I am not against the new residents or visitors, but not in this capacity and at this pace. There are other areas and venues for events such as this. We don't need potentially thousands of people on the banks of our rivers. We've worked so hard to clean up. The residual waste from this volume of people will be detrimental to the landscape and river. With this all being said, we don't need to encourage more people converging to the area. It's already happening. While I respect and acknowledge the value of arts in our society, specifically here in Clark, I believe this will adversely impact the surrounding community more than benefit. John Holt, 1650 Tilthammer Mill Road, Boys, Virginia. I come before the Clark County Board of Supervisors this evening to express my complete and unalterable opposition to the application for a special event permit submitted for 3 music festivals in 2021, 2022, and 2023. The Watermelon Pickers Fest, the River and Roots Festival, and a yet to be named third event by Shepherd's Ford Production LLC and Steve Niswander. I own the property at 1650 Tilthammer Mill Road, Boys, Virginia. My property abuts part of Mr. Niswander's property on the east basement of Spout Run, starting approximately at the bridge crossing Tilthammer Mill Road until Spout Run joins the Shenandoah River. A highlight of my property is the 100-year-old hunting cottage that has been in the family for decades. I have spent considerable time and expense to rehabilitate the structural while maintaining its historical character. The foundation of my cottage is built with stone from the Tilthammer Mill Haley. The property includes 2 waterfalls. I have spent many enjoyable hours talking to my neighbors, once in sight, and learning about the history of the Tilthammer Mill, the cottage, and Clark County. I have come to love the history, tranquility, and beauty of Clark County. There are many appealing aspects to Clark County, but the commitment to historic preservation, agricultural, and land conservation was my list. The 200+ acre Mississauga recently purchased has been zoned agriculture and been actively farmed for generations. He purchased it as a farm. He has hired people to produce crops on the land, and it should remain solely agricultural, not turn into some type of Woodstock music festival venue or a for-profit campground. I have reviewed the special event application and would like to express my top objection. 1, contrary to the application's assertion, I never received a letter from Shepherd's Fork Production LLC. Any assertions by the applicant to the contrary is outright false. I learned about the pending application in tonight's hearing by word of mouth. 2, the application states the festival has been previously approved by the Board of Supervisors. This is false. No special event permit has ever been approved for this property. The similar named festival was approved at an entirely different property in Berryville, Virginia. 3, correspondence from Clark County Sheriff's and VI includes in the application aside, the traffic issue created by the event will be overwhelming and dangerous to public safety. Tilthammer Mill Road is a 2-lane country road which was never intended nor can it handle the volume of cars, trucks, RVs, and 18-wheel tractor trailers anticipated by this proposed event. More important, Tilthammer Mill Road has a significant downhill grade immediately before the property, one and only entrance following the route to the property proposed in the application. The only ingress and egress to the property is a 1-lane gravel road. Not only does this create obvious traffic issues on Tilthammer Mill Road, the public safety issues are numerous and considerable. At this time, we are at the 3-minute allotted time. The rest of this letter will be included in the minute.
Thank you.
John White, 0 Eagle Point Lane, Weiss, Virginia. I am writing to express concern about the proposed concert venue at Island Farms on Tilthammer Mill Road, Weiss, Virginia. I have recently purchased land at the tip of Calmy's Neck. The reason I bought the piece quiet of land on the river. The notion of having a concert across the river runs counter to the very things that attract me to the area. I realize that the proposal is just for a few weekends out of the year, but this feels like a slippery slope. Apparently, this landowner tried to open an illegal campground in the past and was stopped. Thank you, by the way. This feels like a means to slowly erode the peace and tranquility of the area incrementally. 2021, 2 big events. 2022, 5 big events. 2023, continual events. The fact that this type of development is counter to zoning of the area, the desires of the neighbors, and the apparent prior bad faith by the landowner leads me not to endorse this application or trust that this is all that would be asked for. It feels like just the start. I request that you not give an inch this year for fear it will be a mile next year. Katrina Helbig, 136 Bluebird Lane, Boys, Virginia. As a part-time resident of Calmy's Neck Estate, I am requesting the Board of Supervisors deny the large special event permit application for event at 1352 Tilthammer Mill Road in Boys and requested by Shepherd's Fork Production LLC. Shepherd's Fork Productions has proposed at least 3 multi-day events, some up to 6 days, in 2021, with the intent to carry such events through the next several years. The events are expected to draw approximately 3,750 people for the purpose of multi-day music festivals. My family purchased a small cabin in Calmy's Neck expressly for the purpose of enjoying the peace, serenity, and natural beauty along the Shenandoah River. My concern is that venues and events, such as those proposed by Shepherd's Fork Productions, will destroy all that we cherish. The events would bring thousands of people along with their tents, generators, equipment, trash, human waste, light pollution, and noise to what is now a pristine park in the state. The impact of the environment, both in the immediate area and downstream of the site, will be judged from the repertoire. In addition, the event production company will have no method to control event attendees from exploring the area beyond the concert venue. All adjoining property and property along the river is private property. I anticipate incidents of trespassing on private property along this stretch of the river to increase. Please deny the Shepherd's Fork Productions application for the event at 1352 Tilthammer Mill Road. Larry and Rosie Seltzer, comment. We are writing to express our strong opposition to the application for event at 1352 Tilthammer Mill Road in Millwood. Requested by Shepherd's Fork Productions. The landowner is used as landowners in Colony's Neck State. We do not believe the activities requested by the applicant are in any way appropriate for this property, which is an agricultural open space that has been a working farm for decades and as such is consistent with the rural agricultural uses along the Shenandoah River, above and below the Route 50 bridge, all the way to Lock and Alcoa Boat Launch. This stretch of river represents one of the last undeveloped, largely pristine stretches of the river below Front Royal and should not be permanently damaged by allowing any large-scale commercial uses. The event suggested in the permit application would overwhelm the existing infrastructure and natural sources on the river. The events previously held at Watermelon Park, which is an appropriate venue for these types of activities because it has an established commercial footprint, well-established ingress and egress, sufficient electrical and sanitary facilities to support large-scale events, are not appropriate for the open agricultural land at 1352 Tilthammer Mill Road and narrow Scenic Byways. The proposed event would attract thousands of people to an undeveloped area where there are no facilities, no ability to control the behaviors that might negatively affect nearby landowners, wildlife, and the river itself. There are several bald eagle nests in the nearby vicinity. These federally protected birds would be at real risk in any services, especially during nesting and breeding periods, could be subject to litigation and significant financial penalties, including criminal proceedings. Current landowner has shown repeated blatant disregard for following the necessary rules and regulations for land use in Clark County and along the river. He operates in an illegal commercial campground on his land all summer, with as many as 10 different semi-permanent campsites in use. These illegal campgrounds each cleared areas from their campgrounds down to the river, removing vegetation and causing significant erosion during rain events. In spite of several warnings from county officials, landowners did not end this illegal commercial use of his property until a formal order was issued by the county. The proposed use of this property as a large-scale event site is inconsistent with current zoning, inconsistent with all the efforts that Clark County has put into protecting the rural natural assets it has. We hope you will not permit this use or any future non-agricultural commercial use on this agricultural land. Margaret Webster, 181 Little River Lake, Weiss, Virginia. I am writing to let you know that I am opposed to the permit to allow Island Farm to hold music festivals and camping. This would have a negative environmental impact on the river and all the surrounding properties. There is also the issues of noise and light pollution, sanitation issues, when there is a large crowd of people. An event like this would negatively impact the community and serenity of this section of the Shenandoah River that all of us love and have come to appreciate as a unique stretch of the river that has been saved from development and excess use like Watermelon Park, the camp lots across from it. There are other more appropriate venues for a music festival in Clark County, like the fairgrounds, that are already in place and designed for a large public gathering. So I would like to add my voice to all of those who are opposed to this music festival and camping on Island Farm and ask that you vote against it. Richard Miller, 4065 Colony's Neck Lane, Weiss, Virginia. I am opposed to approval of the special event application reference 1. My points and questions are below. Point. The land in question is known to AOC. The definition of AOC from the 2020 Clark County Ordinance Code page 3-1 is below. Emphasis added. 3-A-1. Agricultural Open Space Conservation District, AOC. Intent. This district includes portions of the county that are located west of the Shenandoah River and that consists primarily of various open lands such as farms, fields, forests, parks, lakes, and floodplains. The district is intended for agricultural, forestal, and low activity recreation and service uses that will facilitate the conservation and preservation of agricultural, forestal, and open space land, the protection of water and clean air sheds, the conservation of water and other natural and ecological resources, the reduction of soil, erosion, and flood and fire hazards, and the enhancement of the aesthetic value of the district as a whole. Question. How can Clark County consider the proposed event activity with 3,500 plus people to be low activity? How does this activity event promote the conservation and preservation of agricultural, coastal, and open space land? How does this enhance the aesthetic value? Let me point out that the event activity will not be a 3-day event for adjacent residents. There will be 14 days set up, 3 days event, and 7 days tear down. Each event is more like a 24-day event for impact. Point. In accordance with reference to Section 9, Page 1, definitions, I am considered a Clark County taxpayer owner, Lot 434065, Colby's Neck Lane, and Lot 42 that is adjacent to the proposed effective area. My property line is approximately 200 feet from the proposed camping area in the application, and my home is approximately 600 feet from the camping area in the Shenandoah River edges. 9-A-12, the word adjacent means nearby and not necessarily contiguous unless the obvious construction of the wording indicates otherwise. Question. Adjacent property owners are to be notified of these applications. Why was I not notified? Point. The so-called Island Farm was just a few months ago called River Farm, which attempted to run an unpermitted campground through VRBO and other medium. The attached reference 3. For Clark County violation. Because this experience, we have first-hand experience on how loud just approximately 65 people camping can be. It is suspicious that the Island Farm uses a different address from the River Farm, but has the same owner. At this time, we're at 3 minutes, and the rest of this letter will be included in the Rabina Rich Rebuttal, resident of Fort Virginia. You have already heard quite a bit from me concerning this proposed SUP, so I will try to keep it short and sweet. First entrance. There's only one entrance exit, so there is required 2. It is narrow, 1 lane only. Do not enter and exit at the same time. It is a farm entrance, not the commercial entrance, that will be required for commercial trucks and other heavy vehicles, along with car traffic generated by cars belonging to 3,500 plus people. The access road, Tilthammer Mill Road, Route 621, is a narrow 1-lane secondary road that is designated the Scenic Byway by the Commonwealth Transportation Board, which is defined as being within a protected scenic corridor located each time and constructed in a manner to preserve and enhance the natural beauty and cultural west value of the countryside. Only 60% of Clark public roads are designated scenic byways. The river banks is flooded. Almost the entire campground shown in the application are located within the property's 10-year floodplain. See the attached map showing the 10 and 100-year floodplain, along with the 10-foot contours. Trash from the campgrounds will be regularly washed into the river when it floods, contaminating the river. South Run, one of the county's impaired streams, runs along its western edge and will also become more impaired with contaminated runoff. The events, the multi-day events are 6, not 3 days, as indicated in the application. The number of people expected of 3,500 plus, 49ers and vendors would equate to having over 25% of Clark's entire population circulating on just one property. I strongly urge the Board of Supervisors to deny this application. Sandra Bittner commented, as a resident of Colby's Neck, I wish to join the others who are strongly begging you to consider that the effect of an RV park entertainment venue across the Shenandoah River from our properties would be devastating. The noise factor, people in Calmy's Neck can hear the music from the Watermelon Festival, the damage to the environment, and in particular to historic Shenandoah, the destruction of the view, the property value losses, the fact that people have moved to many places in Clark County, including Calmy's Neck, for the beauty and peace of the area. These are all factors that should not allow this type of destruction to take place. We depend on our local government to protect us from such injustice. But I have a question. How can a property in pristine agricultural residential zone suddenly be allowed to become commercial entertainment property, particularly in an area that should be environmentally and historically protected? The damage done will be irrevocable and a stain upon the values that Clark County professes, not the least of which is the county's admirable efforts on the conservation level. I am asking that the development of commercial property in this area or any area in Clark County that is not appropriate for commercial development be banned. I would invite you to meet me on the ridge of Calmy's Neck to see the property across the river that will be destroyed.
I'll report. Okay, thank you. Thank you for doing that work as well. We thank the citizens for commenting. Yes, sir.
It seems like a lot of people that were making comments here think this event is being held on the Allen Farms. It is not held on the Allen Farms. The Allen Farms is a neighboring farm. It's a land trust governed by a board of trustees. And the farm that's being held on is River Farm. So I'd just like to make that correction.
Thank you, sir. It is confusing for folks, different names, but we know where the property is, I can assure you. We also have a book here that has lots of letters that were received in this week as well, and the board has looked at that. Did staff do a tally of for and against relatively?
Yes, sir. We've tried to keep track as letters have come in today, but it looks like there are 265 letters received to date, some of which you just heard. There were 182 folks that were for the event, 81 that were against, and then one had concerns but didn't state an opinion one way or another.
Any other tally on where people live?
So we tried to track, based on the letters, those that were Clark County residents. The ones that we clearly could tell were Clark County residents, 18 of those were for the event, 77 were against, and that one person had concerns. For the non-residents, 64 were for the event, 2 were against it, and then there were 102 that we had unknown residencies. 100 of those were for the event and 2 were against. So we tried to track based on the information we received, but there were 102 that did not have an address that would indicate that they were in Clark County.
Thank you for that work. If it suits the boards, I think we have clearly heard from the public, both here and through writing, and I would advocate for closing the public hearing. Okay, then I will close the public hearing. I want to take this opportunity to thank those people here and also those people viewing and the folks that wrote in, to thank them for all their efforts and work to bring their point of view to this board. And on a somewhat related, to just thank them, because I don't get to thank them and you for your conscientious observance of the safety rules that we have fought this pandemic with. I think Clark County has done relatively well considering all of the rest of the country and world. And I also want to compliment the attitude of our fellow residents, and you see people smiling and working and helping each other. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you personally and from the board as well for those sacrifices, and we will get through it. The vaccine is close, so keep up the good fight. Okay, board is, I'm open to comment, thoughts, questions. The applicant is here.
One question I wanted to just start with, because it's brought up a couple times that the neighboring property owners weren't notified. people own to the edge of the river or to the middle of the river? I'm thinking the Shenandoah River, you only own to the river bank, but I don't own any property on the river and don't know, but anybody know how their deed is described?
Typically, the state owns the river.
Okay.
So county administration notified property owners of the public hearing, and we did notify on the other side of the river. But that was in a different manner than the applicant did at the beginning of the process.
Okay.
So.
And Calmy's Neck was created before the county had zoning? And that's why.
I've almost been here that long, but, I think we had, David Donovan was zoning administrator in 65 or 6, so I'm not sure when.
Gentleman back there.
Yes.
It was created in 1960.
Okay, well then, yeah. Okay. Other questions or concerns, comments?
I mean, I've got them. But I'm happy to defer.
Doug indicated he had some too, but I'm happy to.
Let me defer to Mr. Lawrence in that case.
Well, we'll go back and forth.
Yeah.
Most of those read the other night and they were against it and they were local. But then when you read this book, it's the majority of people who go to the concert and they're for it. And I've been to, I don't know, probably go every third year. And it's a great festival. It's not, pretty well run, organized. The year you had it at the fairgrounds, it was great. I thought that, thought it ran very well, but there certainly are problems with this location. And we're probably going to get into that here in a minute. But, maybe I'll defer to somebody else to ask a couple questions and then I'll speak back in.
I think this is an asset to Clark County that they have it. But that being said, and I don't think it's, I think it's something that has been going on, I think is well run. But I think that this location is absolutely dismal with things that can't be fixed. The ingress and the egress are down maybe 20-foot wide farm lane, and there's nothing you can do to solve that problem. It just isn't a good spot. I can't support it because it's not a good spot, and I think there's some other spots that are a lot better in Clark County. Obviously, I think that Watermelon Park is the best, but it is just, I'm afraid it's a disaster waiting to happen if you have it down that little narrow lane, because people can't get in and out. If something happens and you have, tents on fire or a lot of people, have heat stroke or whatever, you can't get the rescue squads in and out. You can't get two trailers to meet to come while one's coming in, one coming out. It's just getting in and out of it is my number one concern. And I also think the river access is awfully poor and pretty much non-existent. And I don't know whether you can let you move the bank back or not, but I sort of doubt it. But they may. But the ingress and egress in this place is a disaster waiting to happen, and therefore I can't support it because of that.
One question to Trevor, if we could. We went down there the other night, and when you come in, you go all the way down to almost the barn and then turn in, and then the camping would be from there all the way down, and the day people would be turned back to the left and park kind of in the first field that you come by on the way in.
Yeah, there will be a direct road right off of the access road that'll go into that day parking lot indicated on the map.
Okay. So the camping would be from, saw where the stage was, there were a couple flags up there, posts, and it would be oriented away from the wildlife center, the noise would be going northeast probably.
All of the direction of the stage is all, we haven't discussed a specific, direction for anything, and we'd be willing to work with the county if there was a direction they prefer it to go in.
Then the camping would be from about the stage upstream to the end.
Yeah, and really doing the event on the 27 acres of Watermelon Park, we obviously don't need this much space, so we probably wouldn't allow everyone to go, we would fill it up from front to back basically, so that we wouldn't just have somebody out there a mile away in no man's land with, no real way to get to him quickly.
You know how deep the river is there? I couldn't really tell.
No, I walked down on the bank. I mean, it depends.
3 feet. It seemed like it was wadable across in most spots.
I don't know.
I mean, at regular water levels.
Matt?
So wanted to let the applicant address the idea that Mr. McKay raised with the ingress egress. I mean, that, to me, going down there, that was an inescapable issue. What is your position with respect to that?
So in all honesty, I agree. And I've talked to Mr. Niswander about widening the road there. He says he has the ability to do it if that was a contingency on our approval. But I didn't want to go down that road and propose that before being asked about it.
Do you have any further detail with respect to, and I understand if you don't, but with respect to his representations about how the road would be widened?
So obviously, if you're coming into the road onto the property, you can't go any further left. There's that stream there where the waterfalls end up being. He said he could cut into the hill with his backhoe and widen it, and as well pave the entrance, because he just had a problem with rock, gravel running off. So he was talking about widening that entrance and paving it as well. Just the entrance, not the entire road.
With just perspective, it'll be taking more than a backhoe.
Well, I told him that this is a question that would probably come up, is the entrance access, and he said he's willing to widen the road if that's what it'll take.
Okay. Some of these, is this to be determined ones, like the Pasture Palooza?
No, we had put that in our permits in the past with Watermelon Park Campground to do Watermelon Park Fest, and it was just for the instance that somebody wanted us to do an event for them, whether it be a wedding or just a single day concert. It was kind of just a way without, applying for a bunch of different permits, for 3 years to just, have one meeting about one property, move forward from there.
Most of the people that wrote in favor seem to reference a single event. Several had plural, but your application asked for it's to be determined. It seems more open-ended than what I'm comfortable with.
Well, as our company, I would be willing to just do the Watermelon Park Fest and River and Roots. Like I said, the single day events that we propose, we don't know what they would be either. We just kind of put them in so we can not have to go through the whole.
When the folks are referencing families, that's mostly the summer festival. As opposed, okay. So hopefully the kids will be in school in September. next year. Won't be camping somewhere.
Terry?
God, there are a lot of concerns and so many of them have been stated. What about the fact that the camping, issue of it's a separate thing, as far as requirements? Watermelon Park was, Mr. Stalen had it in his remarks about Watermelon Park. It was grandfathered in, but there is no camping with this site. That's one concern. Another thing that, and you can, if you, I don't know if you could answer.
Yeah, if I can address that. I have applied for permits under different companies for other events, and they've been approved, and there's been camping there, and I honestly didn't know that it would be
that needed to be addressed. Okay. Also, with the entrance, even if you could change that pulling in, it does not change the fact of Tilthammer Mill Road, where that entrance is with the bridge and the hill and the curves. So I think that's a challenge. I also, the language that you pulled up in the plan about the integrity of the river is not compromised, and this is such a long length of the river. You said Watermelon Park was 27 acres, and this is a much bigger area. And we've had the documentation that there are the eagles and the amount of wildlife that's there, besides the fact that the wildlife center is up there, and the noise has a really big impact on the wildlife. And this would be a lot of days where they would be impacted, and you can't, if you have a dog that's afraid of fireworks, you can mitigate that if you know ahead of time. But with wildlife, you really would be a very big negative impact. Another concern of mine. Maybe there's, and that's not to say that I don't share what everybody else is concerned about too. I'm just trying not to repeat a lot of what we've heard. And then the other thing about just the sheer numbers, I personally kind of had this vision of if you had the 3,750 people, that is just about 85% of Berryville. And so if you said to Berryville, if 85% of Berryville drove to that location, that would be really problematic, especially with the travel trailers, and they wouldn't all be coming in their little Jettas, it'd be but that's kind of the vision as I was looking at the numbers.
Yeah, I understand the concern. Actually, the biggest, we strive not, when we were at Watermelon Park, we strove not to get anything on Locks Mill Road blocked. And basically the blockage would come from people lining up on Tuesday morning to try and get those prime campsites. So we started letting people in. Basically, we advertised a 9 a.m. start time. We started letting people in as early as 6 a.m. Ticket booth gets there around 6, and just backing that line down. And the property at Tilthammer Road also has about a mile of road where we can queue cars up, which is a lot more than we had for Watermelon Park Fest. So, and to keep in mind also, we have 2,000 people that are staying there all weekend. Granted, some of them leave and go home, or they're local and they sleep in their own bed and they come back. A lot of those people stay on the property, and we sell roughly around 2,000 camping passes. And so the single day tickets we sell in total all weekend up to 1,500. So that would mean Saturday is about 750 people coming in addition to the campers. Thursday, we generally sell only about 50 to 100. So it's not 3,500 people coming at one time, which is why we haven't had a huge issue ever at Watermelon Park.
But if you're a neighbor, and so you're not talking about 3,500 at one given time, but then you're talking about 3,500 over several days, which means instead of kind of one really tough day, you've got quite a few days of traffic to deal with.
Well, there will be traffic. The cars will be moving. I mean, they're not going to be. It's not going to be you know.
But with the
grid
curve,
line
but
scenario.
with the curves and the hills, you know, it'd be it's a challenge.
Can you address that a little bit? Because I don't know, I don't remember the name of the gentleman, excuse me, that I talked to when I went down there. I don't think it was the Steve fellow. I don't know who he was, but he said his understanding was that you were going to attempt to line cars up and take them all the way down by the river over into a separate parking area. Is that?
Not necessarily by the river, I'm not sure who, but queue cars up on the property that we're doing the event at. So we measured it out, and it was almost a mile of road where we could queue cars on the property before we even get a backup on Billhammer Road. Because we don't put our ticket booth right at the intersection of Billhammer Road and the property. We put it inside of the property.
So, the Watermelon Park was successful. We have great respect for Shepherd Ford Productions, all the people that are involved in it, close friends, as you know. But there were rocky times at the beginning of Watermelon Park. Traffic issues, noise issues, location of stage, river frontage issues, same issue. Much smaller site, worked with property owner and you all to fix those problems. The big benefit is that you had a big road relative to get people down the road. And you had very little backup because you had a site that you just put them on. So the Watermelon Park spoiled because it worked. It worked beautifully. Your application is not sufficient. It doesn't answer the questions that it should have answered. You don't lay out what you've just said. That's not in the application. You don't lay out a lot of the issues that have been brought up, which you should have. Because you're asking for very large events, almost the maximum of events that we've ever had. So I understand that you were on that you felt you could move this Watermelon Park operation to this site and it would run well because you do a good job. And that's a reasonable assumption. But your job is to convince us that you can mitigate all of these issues. And land use decisions are not based on who's applying. They're based on what's being done to the land. So while we all have great respect for you, it's not particularly relevant other than we believe you could run an event and mitigate some of the issues. But from my point of view, you cannot mitigate backhoe or not. You cannot mitigate how you get emergency vehicles into that site. And I know the farm, it's river farm. It's going to get wet when it rains. It's going to get boggy. You're going to get people bogged down. Bev and Doug were at Watermelon Park when the pagans took it over. But
before my time.
That's right.
It was definitely before your time.
Pagans being a motorcycle gang that took it over. Anyway, but that's a different story. But point being, there was a lot of mud, there's a lot of problems, and what's going to happen if you have bad weather events, even with all your great plans, you have no way to get people in and out, and you're going to have people bogged down on that site. And it's going to overwhelm you, it's going to overwhelm our emergency services. And this board, in my view, can't support something that has that much risk to the population, whether they're from here or not. So, and Terri raises the camping issue, and I think in the past we viewed, I viewed a couple of days of auxiliary camping to be sort of part and parcel with these festivals. I think Mr. Salen's correct, that language doesn't indicate that, but I believe that was the board's view. But in this application, you're asking for 2 separate days of strictly camping that don't coincide with the music. So we certainly couldn't approve that because it does require a special use permit. So I'm afraid you found a site that simply, in my view, won't work, despite your professionalism and the great things that that festival has brought to this county and to the participants. It's a wonderful festival. It does wonderful things for children. It does wonderful things for everybody involved in this whole community. But I can't in good conscience say that outweighs the safety issues that are, I believe, you would not be able to mitigate those safety issues without causing further environmental destruction to cutting a road through that hill. I mean, the last thing that this board wants to do is encourage, in my view, would be to encourage a large-scale road to be cut through that bank, setting a precedent for, we'll do that if, as long as you can provide access, then you can do whatever you want. There's a whole other side of that.
I understand. I have a question for you, Mr. Chairman. VDOT, can you please go back over what we learned this afternoon?
So VDOT's viewed the wrong site. VDOT thought that they were being asked to view Watermelon Park as they had been in the past, and they indicated that it did not cause an issue. But I will say that VDOT's general answer to these types of private events is that as long as they don't create a backup on the road, it's not a problem. They somewhat rely, maybe not even somewhat, they rely on the Board of Supervisors to say that, we think this is a good event, and we will ask the applicant to keep the traffic off of the road. But no, it's a valid point that we have incorrect information in our packet, and so we do not have a definitive answer from VDOT on that issue. I can only give you what I think they would say.
And you may correct me if I'm wrong, but traditionally speaking, we would have an answer one way or the other from VDOT when deciding a matter like that.
It would be very similar to the letter that's in there, which some would say is an answer and some would say is not. But yet.
And if I may, we send our letters of notice for approval 60 days, when we turn in the permit, and then these departments have 45 days to respond. And if they don't respond, it's deemed approval, which, it's good for us. Okay, you didn't answer an email, you approve. But I think it gets us to this point where we're sitting here discussing road issues for a public hearing rather than dealing with it beforehand. Do something.
No, I think that's a reasonable point. We've tried to, and I think staff did talk with you. We try to raise concerns that the board has through a variety of avenues that we've developed those concerns. We try to relay those concerns to the applicants, and I think we have to a certain degree with you.
In Trevor's defense, it's the first paragraph says the address to VDOT. But I'm thinking as soon as they saw Watermelon, they skipped down to the rest of your letter and didn't realize that it was a different spot.
I think they're innocent of anything with feed. They sent the letter on time. It was pretty clear.
But I do think the thing that they would not, VDOT, I feel confident in saying VDOT will not address whether you have appropriate access off of their right of way. And to my point, I just don't think it did. Pains me to say so.
I completely understand.
Other thoughts or?
I just wanted to just really say again that we're here tonight to, our task is to look at this application for the special use permit at this location. And, you all have really produced and created a lot of experiences for people and at Watermelon Park for years. And it's become such a tradition. So for all of the people who wrote the letters of support, that's really not a surprise because they have really enjoyed what you've done. But that being said, we have to look at this application and this site. And this site is really not suitable or safe. And just really wanted to me, that's kind of how it boils down.
I wouldn't normally do this, but I did actually prepare a written statement. I like to speak extemporaneously, sometimes to my own detriment, but in this particular circumstance, I felt that I owed it to you and to the number of citizens who took the time to comment, those of you who came here tonight, to formalize my thoughts a little bit better. As some of you may know, I am not an unbiased or disinterested member of the community when it comes to music. I come from a musical family. My father and brother performed classical and lute pieces at bars in October. I've performed in multiple genres myself across the county for years. I have a number of close friends who play and perform regularly here in the county and regionally, including close friends of mine who play annually at Watermelon Park and its festivals. My family, friends, and I have attended Watermelon Park and the River and Roots Festival regularly for a number of years, and music is near and dear to us. Beyond that, Clark County and its surrounding areas are blessed with a plethora of musical talent. I've always believed that music is a tremendous cultural boon for Clark County, and the fine people behind Shepherd's Ford are integral in developing and maintaining that culture. It's no coincidence that Trevor and his friends, and I've shared the stage with them as well, grew nearby Pastorpalooza from a casual field party into a well-respected festival that drew regional and even national performing acts. In all my years attending, events at Watermelon Park, I never witnessed anything other than family-friendly, environmentally conscientious, peaceful patrons enjoying great music by the river. And I have full faith in Shepherd's Ford that wherever the location, they would do as good a job managing a festival as any outfit anywhere in the country. I want these festivals to happen. I want to make that perfectly clear. My friends and family do as well. I've received a number of communications in support of Shepherd's Ford and the festivals in all kinds of manners, from emails and texts to phone calls to personal encounters. At the same time, I believe my role as county supervisor requires me to be objective in making decisions that impact county residents and land use particularly. For the same reasons my colleagues have already stated, and some of those stated in the record as well, including compliance with our zoning regulations, I have deep reservations about this particular location. And I think that I share the sentiments of the board when we say this particular location. That's important. While my own personal biases being a town resident might steer the festivals towards the fairgrounds, I will continue to support Shepherd's Ford in its quest to resurrect the unique, important, and irreplaceable music festivals it and Clark County are and have been known for. But I cannot support this particular venue as it is currently proposed at this time. So while Shepherd's Ford will forever have my patronage and heartfelt vote of confidence, it pains me to say that I cannot vote to approve the special event permit as presented.
Thank you. Other thoughts or comments? Motion?
I move that we deny this application.
I will second that, and I certainly hope that you can find somewhere to have it. And I think that we would, the county would be better off if you can find somewhere to have it. Like I said before, my issue is the location and how do you get larger vehicles in and out of there. I just can't see how you can remedy the hill there, because it's a huge hill. With a backhoe, or I don't even think you can do it with a bulldozer with a minimal amount of, without a lot of dirt moving. I really would be, I'm very supportive of what you do. It's been going on for years. And when I used to go all the time, I really liked it. And I think it's sort of woven into the fabric of Clark County for generations. So I hope you can find somewhere to have it.
Other comments? We have a motion on the floor for denial of this special use permit. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor of denial? Okay. All right. We thank the applicant for his honesty and integrity working with us. We're sorry that it did not work out with his thing. Okay, any other business before the board? All right, we thank the citizens for coming tonight and sharing their opinion. We are adjourned.